Okay, we are back. Sunday morning quarterbacks. It's your boy Sosa Picks. I'm joined by Spin Doc Sports and DMAC Wakefield. You already know what it is. We're back. It's week 4. We done got some winners out the way. We're starting to see how some of these teams in the NFL are starting to operate. But before I get into anything, how was y'all's week, man? How you feeling, Spin? How you feeling, DMAC? How was the week that has passed? How you feeling?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We had, I know a lot of people saw it and a lot of people shared it. Thank you. We had the charity golf tournament on Friday in memory of my mom and raised over $7,100 for ALS research. So a huge thank you to everybody who shared and everybody who contributed. And that doesn't even count the people that said that they donated on Twitter on the day of the event. So we're probably going to be closer to $8,000, and 100% of that money is going to go back to helping families with people with ALS. So, sports was sports this week, but that was the highlight of my week, and it was just really, really cool. So thank you all, and just know that it's going to a great cause.
Absolutely.
Look, it was a good week. Good week, an enjoyable week, man. Coming off another Chiefs win down there Sunday Night Football in Atlanta. So I didn't have to wake up and ask my team to act like they got some sense today. So I got to say I can't complain too much, man. Mizzou was on a bye week, so nothing to worry about as far as college football. I got a great game last night. Ooh, that was a great game. But yeah, man, I'm excited to get into this NFL slate, dog.
Oh man, must feel nice to win. I remember when my team used to win. I remember that, man. I remember when we used to be like the talk of the town. Everywhere you go around the city, they open a seat up for you. All right, it's enough moping. Didn't have to mention the fact that I had to tell my team to act right in front of company, but here we are. Getting to week 3, passing really quickly, obviously. I think the biggest surprise of week 3 would be the Cincinnati Bengals falling to 0-3. Historically slow starter, Joe Burrow, he's at the slowest start of his career. Jaden Daniels walked into Cincinnati and put it on him. Pause. It was pretty crazy. I can't lie. I seen a rookie go 90% plus and bending over some perennial Super Bowl contenders. It just wasn't on my bingo card. And I have to shout that out, and I have to make it clear that, Jaden Daniels, that he's separated himself right now as the best rookie, in my opinion. Obviously, people know I've been critical of him. He's looked great. For an NFL team to not punt in 2 consecutive weeks is just outstanding. And I just gotta run him his flowers. I think it's to be spoken about. Also, Anthony Richardson, figured out a way. Played like shit, still figured out a way to win the game. Got to respect it. And what else? The Eagles should be 3-0, but they're not. They're 2-1, and here we are. Spin. Any takeaways from week 3 in particular that you wanted to touch on? I mean, obviously your team got smoked by Bo Nix. I know everybody thought that was coming.
Yeah, well, I would more say that we got smoked by Sean Payton, and even though I hate him and think he's an asshole, the man gets results, and he gets results against us. So I got to give credit where credit is due. No, in the NFL, look, I've been saying it all week. I was on the fence. I was cautiously optimistic about Jaden Daniels, but this kid is for real, man. And what I like the most about him is that he has an offensive coordinator that just knows how to use his talents perfectly. Clint Kingsbury was the absolute perfect choice to be his offensive coordinator and use his talents. They use his rushing ability a lot, but not so much that you're putting him at risk of getting injured. He's really starting to click with Terry McLaurin, and just the creativity that Kingsbury has shown in being able to get him out in space and just use his athleticism has just been fantastic. So, normally you don't think of a Dan Quinn coach team as a team that's like playing shootouts, but this defense is at least 2 years away from being competitive no matter who their coach is. They're still statistically by DVOA the worst defense in football. So you're going to see a lot more shootouts with the Commanders just because of how the game script is going to work. And I think, at least based on what last week showed, I think that Dan Quinn is smart enough to know that, and to know that they don't have to be conservative. They don't have to be, trying to run in between the tackles a lot. They can put up points and let their defense do just enough to win. So that was the first thing for me. The Bengals you already mentioned, so I won't touch on it. One of my buddies that I watch with asked, is Zach Taylor going to be in trouble? I don't think yet, but I think if they go like 0-4, 1-5, I don't know. Mike Brown has done some interesting things with his coaching. So I think that the Bengals, you hate to say that week 3 or week 4 are must win, but I mean, it almost is, because you go 0-4 and the postseason just isn't going to happen. So that would be another one that I'm looking for this week. And I'm looking for to see, now they've had some wins, and Sam Darnold leads the NFL in touchdown passes. That's a real stat. Sam Darnold leads the NFL in touchdown passes. But now he's going into a very hostile environment today, and in a situation that I know we're going to talk about in a little bit. So I think that this is kind of where the rubber is going to meet the road for him. Kevin O'Connell, in the past, he has been able to squeeze really good performances out of who has been really mediocre quarterbacks, like Joshua Dobbs last year, if you remember, had that stretch where he had all those rushing yards and had a really good stretch. But after about 3 or 4 games, teams start to scheme and figure it out. So this is going to really be a separation point for Darnold to determine, is this for real? And is this something that you think can be sustained for a whole season? Or is this something where this is going to be like a lot of times, quite honestly, that Kevin O'Connell has taken a backup quarterback or a career iffy quarterback and turned him into a superstar for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he comes back to earth. Last thing I was going to say is the matchup that I'm actually really looking forward to today, besides the Bucs, is the Falcons and the Saints. As much as I loathe both teams have showed me that they are for real, and that we're going to have a dogfight on our hands in the division. I think that the Saints offense came back to earth a little bit last week. Kamara got 26 touches, I think, but only averaged like 3 yards per touch, which is very abnormal for him. So you wonder, our team's starting to figure out the Clint Kubiak offense a little bit. That usually happens around this week 4 to 6 time with teams that have new coordinators. So, and the Falcons offense is really starting to click. So I'm actually really like I can't remember a time where I've actually said I'm looking forward to watching part of a Falcons and Saints game, but that would be today because I think that whoever wins that game is at least early going to be in the driver's seat for the South.
I don't hate that at all. Look, I think that you specifically hit on what it is kind of the, you hear a lot about the 0-2 teams. Oh, if you're 0-2, what is your season going to look like? Are you going to be in trouble, et cetera, et cetera? For me, once you hit the 0-3 mark and you're staring down 0-4, that's when those types of things really come into play, and some of the noise of just simply bad teams, or obviously not a 16 game schedule. Now it's a 17 game schedule comes into play. Obviously, you pointed it out. The Bengals are chief among them. Going on the road at Carolina, Andy Dalton re-energized his team, coming in for Bryce Young. There's Sosa's favorite quarterback, Bryce Young, I may have to add in. And look, it's going to be key that Andy Dalton does not have a revenge game against the Bengals and give them their 4th L. At that point, it's one of those things where the season is, in fact, on life support. This is a game in which they got to get it. Otherwise, their path to an AFC wild card gets incredibly tedious. On the other side of it, the Jaguars. The Jaguars are looking like they're in a position where they're going to spiral. They're going on the road to Houston, divisional game. You drop to 0-4 right now, get the Texans back to 500. You can probably kiss the rest of your season goodbye. And there's going to be a fire lit under Doug Peterson that's already a little bit hot to begin with. On the flip side of it, a little bit of the undefeated teams proving grounds as well. You mentioned the Vikings. Certainly, this is a big game for them in the division going on the road to the Packers. I think that it also applies for the Buffalo Bills. Sunday Night Football on the road to the Ravens. What can they get the job done against what is going to be easily the toughest competition they have? And then finally, we'll see it on Monday Night Football with the Seahawks going to the Lions as well. So it's that point of the season where we have some data points that we can start moving off of for what these teams are going to be for the rest of the season. And this is a time in which those teams either got to prove that to the point the winning that they've done is valid, or the losing that they've done is not going to sink their season and be the entire story of their season.
All right. Also, people want me to acknowledge the fact that the 49ers lost. I haven't really done that in any form of or fashion. The 49ers lost the game on Sunday. Special teams were an absolute joke. The secondary for the 49ers right now is an absolute joke. I'll be honest about that. We can't cover at all. Our safeties are ass. No, that you're letting receivers who were Amazon flex workers a week before get on top of you. I paused that. I'm just sick. I'm sick about what I saw. However, no need to panic. Obviously, I will say that my biggest takeaway through 3 weeks is that Brock Purdy deserves his fucking money. I didn't want to admit it at first, but Brock Purdy has shown me through 3 games that he is a steadying force on the offensive side. He is no longer just hitched to the trailer or hitched to the truck. He's driving that bitch. And we just got to admit it. He's the trigger man. I know, like, I've always been critical of him or any quarterback that plays for Kyle Shanahan. But he's shown his worth 100% in this throughout these 3 games. I think it's undeniable that he has performed at a very high level, regardless of what you've seen here.
A really quick point on that as well. This is why it's important to be able to take your time when evaluating these guys, because Brock Purdy, in the ways in which he's developed as a quarterback, when he started his career, it's not exactly where you would put him in a big separator of, oh, this guy's not a game manager, or this guy maybe is a little bit better than a game manager, but not a really good quarterback at the time. But these guys can develop, and that's why it's fair. I think that you've seen some plateauing from guys like Tua, where they've gotten to that point and you haven't really seen better for them. Unfortunately, right now dealing with the injury, but just in general with their play. But from the standpoint of Brock Purdy, he was a guy you put in that same aspect. And in my opinion, his play this year and really the end last year as well has separated him from that group of showing that he is truly a good quarterback that brings a lot to the table. And even down some of those superstars that the 49ers have on that end, he's been able to buoy their offense as well. And in my personal opinion, this also applies to rookie quarterbacks. I know Jay Daniels is the hot thing of the week. Everybody take a deep breath. Jay Daniels still can have a very good career, but there is a lot of these rookie quarterbacks that's left to be written as far as their story is concerned.
Absolutely, and just to add a little bit more in regards to Brock, people know, like I've said, he's got to win me a Super Bowl for him to get paid. The only thing you can hold against him is that he wasn't able to get enough points off of turnovers against the Minnesota Vikings. Other than that, he's been great this year. So nothing else to add in regards to the Brock Purdy situation. We're going to get into today's slate. I'm sure Prop's going to be joining us here shortly. He had alarm issues because, he was streaming until 6 a.m. So, always on the grind, always trying to get people the best looks, the most looks and the most money. So shout out to Prop. He's always locked in. First game we're going to get into is the Vikings versus the Packers. We got the Packers laying 2.5, and we got the return of Jordan Love. Very excited to see that. Obviously, we saw him perform in the first game of the season. Got banged up there at the end of the game where Jalen Carter got a hold of him and fucked him up. But he's back. They performed very well in his absence, which is something nobody really expected. I think we had these doubts in Malik Willis because we had never seen him perform at a high level in the NFL. Malik Willis in those 2 weeks while Jordan Love was gone didn't just hold down the fort. He renovated the crib. And I was very, very I'm very shocked to see that, to be totally honest. I did not expect it. I don't think the majority of Earth expected that. However, he did do it, and here we are. Jordan Love being back, I think, obviously opens up a lot more opportunities for downfield passing, being that that's his skill set. He's very good at throwing the ball. And these receivers, obviously, their value, I think, goes up exponentially. I don't think that's even a conversation or anything that we could argue. I think in this game, I love Dobbs. I think Dobbs is is a great target for today. I think he's performed well against Minnesota prior with Jordan Love. Also, again, I think that when you get Jordan Love back in the lineup, it's cash money with these weapons that he has. On the other side of the ball, interested to see if Sam was really banged up last week. I don't know if I believe he's messed up at all, but we'll see. And I also want to say this. I didn't get this in the intros. I love what Flores is doing. I love it. Okay. Teams need to run the fucking ball. I hate that. I don't want to take away anything from what he's doing because it sounds like I'm a hater. But if we're all watching the same thing, just run the fucking rock. Run the ball, and you're going to have opportunities against that Flores defense. It's a fact. If I'm lying, say I'm lying. But if you watch the games, teams just won't run the ball. They just won't run the fucking ball. They just stop doing it. I think today what you'll see is Jacobs perform well. I think LaFleur knows if you run the ball, you're going to get your quarterback opportunities because any defense that's going to go man and run zero and try to drop out of stuff, you're still going to get opportunities. But it starts with being able to run the ball. You have to run the ball against a Brian Flores defense, or you're going to have a long day. Look at C.J. Stroud last week. Looked like a rookie in his second year, respectfully. And that's not their fault. Obviously, Mixon was banged up. When Cam Akers is your lead back, the results usually are gonna vary towards the wrong side. Thoughts on this one? D-Mac will go first, and then we'll get to Spin. I know Spin probably has some plays for sure. We always let Spin go last on Minnesota games.
Yeah, look, I'll piggyback right off of that. To your point, you have to run the ball versus a Brian Flores defense, and it's the first part of obviously staying ahead of the sticks, putting yourself in advantageous second and third down looks because there's only so much exotic looks that you can give when you know that you have a very short amount of field to actually defend against. You can't leave as many guys open underneath from that aspect because it's giving up a first down from that standpoint. But if you're not attacking this defense on the ground, then it's too easy. And to your point, obviously they didn't put C.J. Stroud in the best position because Mixon was banged up. But again, it was also a question mark that I had last week of this is a test for C.J. Stroud. How advanced could he be in his second year? And obviously Brian Flores has gotten plenty, to say the least, in that matchup last week. So he didn't pass. Still, second-year guy, we can continue to see him get better. But that is something he's going to have to answer against this guy's coverages, specifically in the AFC, because he's going to see a few defensive coordinators that will test him specifically in the playoffs as well, if they want to advance from that aspect. But for this game, look, I do think that Josh Jacobs is in line for a good game. We've seen Matt LaFleur be able to run the ball on all manners of defenses. I think he'll be able to do it against the Minnesota Vikings as well. And obviously, when you have Jordan Love, who's coming back off that ankle sprain, not necessarily something to where you're scared for him, but it is something that you want to make sure that he's put in the best position to succeed as possible. So I do think Josh Jacobs has a good game, as Sosa is highlighting his over rushing yards. I think that's certainly a good number to take him at for sure. I also will look at the ways in which they were able to use both Dobbs and Jaden Reed. If you want to continue to take Jaden Reed because he's back into the lineup for his longest reception, I think that's a good look as well. And I think if you want to take Dobbs for over his receptions, I think that's also a good look. Again, getting the ball out of Jordan Love's hands. Dobbs seems to be the guy that he likes to get out to a little bit short on those quicker passes. Jaden Reed is the guy that he likes to use to hurt the defense deep. On the other side of the ball, I think Sam Darnold continues to have a really good game. I think that they're in position as long as they continue to block up front to put Sam Darnold in good aspects to get the job done. The one thing that I am watching is can the Packers generate some inside pressure? That's the way that you beat this Vikings offensive line. If they're able to, maybe they can affect Sam Darnold. If they're not, then he's going to pick them apart. And the really funny thing is this. I know it's the whole Jair Alexander versus Justin Jefferson thing. It's been a whole thing. It's never one-on-one. They do not let him one-on-one against Justin Jefferson. They cloud the covers to make sure that. Even so, I think Justin Jefferson will continue to have a good game. He's had good games versus the Packers in the past. I don't think that's going to change today from that aspect. But be on the lookout. Jordan Addison is back. You may get him at a nice little line for his receiving props. I don't know if Sosa wants to go over and take a look at that. He is back. They've used Naylor extremely effectively. If Jordan Addison is good to go, 39.5, I think that is a number that he can hit. So those are a few looks that specifically in this matchup I'll be looking for. As they cloud coverage to Justin Jefferson, their next best target is going to be Jordan Addison. And if he's back healthy, which it seems like he is, I think he'll have a good day versus the Packers.
All right. Well, From my perspective, I see this game a few ways. First is that, yes, Jordan Love is back, but this is not going to be 100% Jordan Love. This is an injury that usually keeps guys out 2 to 3 weeks longer. So, unless he's like Lazarus and was able to have like a miraculous healing from above, he's not going to be at 100%. So one thing that Matt LaFleur has actually been pretty good at is modifying his schemes to fit the personnel that he has. Sosa talked about how Malik Willis not only held down the fort, but actually made some plays to help win him some games. I believe that was largely because of some of the situations that LaFleur and their offensive staff put him in. So I think that they're going to put Love in situations where he can be successful, but not necessarily like just go all out. Like I don't expect, not unless it's necessary, which I don't think it will be. I'm not expecting him to drop back like 35, 40 times today. This DMAC mentioned Josh Jacobs. I think that you're going to see a healthy workload. He's hit 15 plus touches in all 3 games so far. Has not scored a touchdown this year. So an ATD bet I actually like, because I'm not necessarily sure if they're going to want to have Love taking a bunch of snaps inside the 10 where everything gets compact and you can run the risk of having him get out in some space, get hit, whatever. I can see them just literally just going heavy set and just running the ball right up the middle. So, the Packers 2 wins, like, let's be real, with Malik Willis at quarterback, that was impressive. However, they did play 2 defenses that DVOA wise were in the bottom half of the NFL, including the Colts that are in the 20s. Now they get a team with the Vikings that overall DVOA wise as a team is number 1 overall. They're first in pass defense. They're second in run defense. Their pass defense has just been absolutely stellar. We already talked about Brian Flores. So I would assume that if you're Green Bay, you're not trying to turn this game into a shootout today. You're trying to make this an ugly ground game where you limit the Vikings possessions, you limit the number of times that Justin Jefferson can get the ball and touch the ball, etc. And you're also, by running the ball frequently, you're limiting the amount of exotic pressures that Flores can bring in the pass game. So as far as the game goes itself, I think this is probably going to be a 1 possession game. This game is probably going to fall within the number for sure. I know Minnesota was 3 ever since it was announced that Love came back. I think it got updated. But either way, I think that the Vikings defense is probably enough to cover this number here. As far as who wins, I think it depends on who controls the line. So if Green Bay is able to control the line early and Josh Jacobs is able to run against this defense and they're able to limit the amount of pressures from all over the field that Flores can bring, then you're looking at probably looking at a Green Bay win. If they can't do that and they're getting stuffed and putting Love in position where he has to go shotgun, he has to get out in space, and he has to do a bunch of dropbacks and make plays, I just don't think his knee is ready yet. While I'm not on the Packers medical staff, you listen to all the comments from all the coaches and even some of the ones that some of the media insiders have seen at practice. And they said, looks good in practice, but there were a few reports that he was still gimping a little bit after practice, still a little sore. So while I don't expect that to impact probably his passing ability, it is going to potentially impact his ability to get out in space on rollouts and throw the ball. So if you're asking me to pick before the game, I'm taking Vikings plus 2.5. If you're asking me what the key to the game is, then to me that would be, can the Packers control the line of scrimmage with the run? If they can, then they have a great chance to win this game, because you're limiting the amount of times that both Flores can bring pressure and that Jordan Love has to drop back. If you're not going to do that and you're only going to get 2 or 3 yards per rush, it could end up being a long day for Green Bay, because the more you put Love in those situations in this moment, the more you're running the risk that, one, he's going to get re-injured, and two, that he's going to try to do something or have to do something that his knee is just not capable of doing at this moment. So overall, though, the look I like even more is the under 44, just because I think that because of how LaFleur modifies his offense to fit his personnel, I think you're going to see a lot of runs. I actually wouldn't be opposed to Jaden Reed rushing yards on a lot of reverses. They love using him in motion, things like that, to get the defense moving and to take away that pressure from Love. So anything Josh Jacobs, I think, works, as does Jordan Reed rushing yards is another one that I like. And I think you can get that now. Actually, I don't even know if that line, it's not up on DraftKings. I saw it last night, but if you can find it, I would take the over on that.
All right, we're going to move on to the next game. Also, if you look at the screen, I like Dontavion Wicks to get in the end zone this week, plus 380. I love the odds. He becomes a factor with Jordan Love. Obviously, he's got the history of drops. He didn't perform well in the first week when Jordan Love was in the lineup, but he will get the targets. Plus 380. I think this is a week where we get some long shots. Just being honest, we got a lot of banged up players at skill positions throughout the league, and I think you're going to get some really good opportunities for some good odds. Next game we're going to get into is Spin's favorite team. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles are taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. Here, weather could be a situation in this one. We got Saquon Barkley looking like something again, looking like the superstar that he's always been, with talent around him that hasn't all seen the field, and some of which is going to be off the field this week as well. No A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles, no Lane Johnson as well. From the Bucs side, I'll let Spin give the laundry list of people who may or may not play today. But in my opinion, in this one, it's just a tough one to really cap. In my opinion, I think either team has very, very good reasons for why they would win. The only dynamic that gets added to the mix is obviously Saquon Barkley, which is something that Jalen Hurts has never had next to him, facing a Todd Bowles defense, which just does change things to an extreme extent, in my opinion. Saquon, like I said, showing that he is the elite running back that we've come to know him as, and I think I like the Eagles in this one personally. I also gotta rock with the guy that the quarterback trusts the most, who's Goddard. I think Goddard's a prime target for targets, catches, yards. I think he's going to get the ball. I think that's a formality at this point. You got to include. He has to be included in the offense. I think you can really roll the dice on any of the receivers for Philly, because you just don't know who the guy will be. Obviously, a lot of people are on Dotson. Even their third receiver, Covey, who had been showing some signs, he's on IR now. So you really don't know who else is going to get passes. You got to think that Jalen Hurts is going to feed Goddard again, just like last week. And I think that Goddard's got to be, the focal point. Now, will the defense be, ready for that? Possibly, but I still think that I still trust Kellen Moore's pass concepts to get the tight end the ball in some capacity in this matchup. Spin, I will, obviously, because the Spin team will let him go last. D-Mac, anything you like in this one? And then on to Spin.
Yeah, look, we will talk about this as far as our marquee matchup later on. That'll be viewing on Win the Day TV right here afterwards. We finish up this Sunday. But look, like you said, this is a tough one for me. There's a lot of different people that are going to be out. The one thing that I'm looking for, if Vita Vea is not playing, which we'll find out about that in a few. I like everything Saquon Barkley on the ground specifically. If not, then you maybe will want to look a little bit towards the receiving side with Saquon Barkley. He's been featured in the passing game. He's going to have to be a key piece specifically as they attack this Buccaneers defense because they don't have the outside guys. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith already going to be ruled out. It's going to have to be Goddard. It's going to have to be Saquon Barkley. So for me, the only thing that I would look at is Vita's in, maybe more Saquon Barkley receiving yards. If he's out, on the ground, you can look at it more. But as far as the difficulty of capping this, certainly up there for sure. And we get into more detail about this later on, certainly. Go ahead, Spin.
All right. Well, I feel a lot better this morning than I did yesterday, like night or like late last night, because it's not official yet. But one of my most trusted Bucks insider places is reporting, and they actually have some insights into the team and people connections with the team. They are reporting that Vita Vea will play. So how healthy he is a question that we will see during the game today. So, but just Vita Vea being there, taking up space is going to be huge because I talked about this when I was on with DMAC yesterday, is that even at 80%, the man takes up two guys just because he's a mountain and he's so strong. Well, one of the strongest defensive tackles in the NFL. How that translates to today is a couple ways. Number one is that Lane Johnson is out. So he is out today, and the Eagles have been a team that runs to the right very, very often because you have an all-pro tackle over there. Why not take advantage of it, right? He's going to be out today. So when you have Vita Vea, and I mentioned this yesterday too, one of the reasons why a lot of Bulls' pressures didn't work and why the Bucks actually recorded no sacks last week was because of the absence of Vea. Because when he's there, he takes up two guys up the middle, and then you can bring those safety blitzes. You can bring those linebackers up. You can press a little bit more in coverage because you have one guy that has to be double teamed and you're at an advantage in the trenches up front. That's actually what happened last year in the playoff game where we beat Philly very handily. Was Vea took up two guys, Bulls brought pressure up the middle, linebackers came on the outside, and created basically like no room and this little pocket for Hurts to operate, and he couldn't escape because we have speed on the outside with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and some of our linebackers. So with Vita Vea in, it changes the dynamic of the game because he can definitely do that. Now, one thing that we are going to be missing, which I think is going to hurt us a lot. Well, it hurt us last week too. And it hurt us against Detroit, but we didn't lose, is Luke Godke is out. So he was through concussion protocol, almost done, but those tests are run by an independent neurologist, and you have to go a certain number of days without seeing symptoms. And he got through most of it. It was either the first to last or the last day where he was still experiencing some, I don't know exactly what they look for, but some symptom where he was ruled out for today. That's going to hurt us against the Eagles front four because the Eagles do play a lot of zone coverage. They rely on their front four for pressure. And without Godke, what we're also going to have to probably do is keep Cade Otton in next to Justin Skrull, who is Godke's backup. He's a very, very green, very, very inexperienced offensive lineman. So you're going to have to keep a tight end in a lot. So I would expect to see probably not a lot of looks to our tight ends today, just because they're going to have to stay in and help on the line. Now, Bucks did get good news. Rashad White was deemed questionable with an illness. It was reported to be food poisoning or some kind of bug he got from eating something. He actually feels better. He's going to get some fluids before the game, and he should be close to 100%. Bucky Irving was listed as questionable with his hamstring. He had a weird practice progression this week where he was limited on Wednesday, didn't practice on Thursday, limited on Friday. His hamstring reportedly is feeling better. He's probably not going to see a huge increase in workload as has been projected or had been stated by the team, and that he probably deserves because he's been flat out better than Rashad White. But that's probably going to have to wait a week because he is nursing an injured hamstring. So those things are going to help us. As far as the game itself, I'm certainly not going to pick the Eagles against my Bucks. But in a game that's a pick 'em, I don't really have a huge with the news on Godke. I don't really have a huge take on the line. I actually gave out yesterday, gave out Bucks +1, but that was before Godke was ruled out. So I think this game is probably going to come down to the last possession. This is going to be a low scoring, kind of ugly affair with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith out, with Rashad White still nursing some illness, and Bucky Irving nursing a hamstring, and with all the injuries that we have everywhere else, with both teams have. I think if you want to see a bunch of points in this in this game, you probably are looking at the wrong game. So this to me, the look for me here is the under, just because of all the injuries that both teams have.
All right, and we got our guy Prop God here. He looks like he's prepping to join us. He was streaming till like 5 a.m. So getting people money. It's like a 24/7 type of deal here, man. On to the next game. We got the Jaguars heading to Texas to take on the Texans in Houston. What is there to say about the Jacksonville Jaguars? They're ass. They suck. They're not good. Their quarterbacks look like fucking garbage. Their defense sucks. The fucking play calling's been ass. Nobody in the receiving core is good. Can't believe no one can create separation at all. Man, almost like they had a guy in the building last year, like that they just let walk for nothing, and they went and got Brian Thomas. So Brian Thomas. Has he even fucking played in the last 2 weeks? Like, how's a guy that's 6'4" just disappear, like invisible, not there? He fucking sucks. All right, he might not suck, but you know who has definitely sucked? Trevor Lawrence has fucking sucked this year. He's fucking sucked. He's been terrible. He's been awful. I have nothing positive to say about anything we've seen from Trevor Lawrence. Josh Allen got his bread. What the fuck is he doing? What the fuck? Yeah, what the fuck is he doing? Jacksonville's been ass. Now, Houston's got a defensive coach. Everybody was on their nuts after the first couple of games. Oh, their defense looks like this. Their defense looks like that. They went and they kicked Chicago's offensive line shit in, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Danielle Hunter and Will are going to take over the league." Then they go to Minnesota and lay the biggest egg of the season. We're going to give them some grace. They didn't have a running game. I got this line when it was at 6.5. I like Jacksonville to cover. I think it's a divisional matchup. And if this game isn't competitive, Doug's going to be on the hot seat for real. I mean, to like the next degree. He has to win today. And also, a win today actually doesn't look as bad when you look at the numbers across the division, right? Like, you'd be rather, if you're 1-3 and everybody else is 2-2, you're in the mix. You're good to go. You're only one game out, and everybody's feeling that much better. But you lose today and you go 0-4, it's over. Everybody's getting fired. People are trying to make some sort of conversation that Trevor Lawrence should be benched. I'm not here for that or to have any sort of conversation in regards to that. In this matchup, favorite play would be Nico Collins' longest reception over 28.5. No Tank Dell today. I see they got Robert Woods' props up. There's a name, right? There's a name. Can't go wrong with Diggs. Can't go wrong with Collins. I think Houston goes out there and hoops, but I also think that Jacksonville, they have to do something today. I think I like Jacksonville plus the 5.5. Obviously, I like them with the 6.5. I think a touchdown was a little bit more disrespectful. 5.5 is that teetering line of Decepticon. It's like 5.5 usually is a spot where you would take the dog straight up, but that's a different conversation for another day. Spin, your thoughts on this one?
I mean, aside from the fact that Jacksonville sucks ass, and Trevor Lawrence has sucked ass, and no. But in all seriousness, the Jags' backs are up against the wall on this one. You already talked about it, about how not only is your season on the line, but now you got to go on the road to a divisional opponent, and really for the Jags, nothing has worked. Not offensively, not defensively. Their top defender just got ruled out for 4 games. There's just not a lot to like here. I don't like anything on the spread just because these divisional games tend to play close. So 5.5 is an ugly number for me both ways when you figure the talent disparity between the teams. The one play that I do like for this one, and I'll just be straight up, like this one just barely missed my VIP card for the day, is Stephon Diggs over receiving yards. Jacksonville, DVOA covering the wide receiver, the second wide receiver on teams, dead last in the NFL. They've allowed multiple touchdowns already. So Diggs to score a touchdown. Diggs, pretty much all things Diggs for this game when you have the defense scheming to stop Nico. And Mixon's going to be a game time decision, but he only got in one limited practice. So even if he does play, I'm not sure that I would trust him with any props or any fantasy related stuff. So I think if you have Cam Akers, you want a fantasy spot starter, that could make a lot of sense, even if Mixon is in, because Dameon Pierce is out. I'm actually using Akers in one of my bigger money leagues today as a flex spot. I think if you need to use him as an RB2, you can certainly do that. So, but for this game, for the actual game itself, I don't even want to pick anybody on the spread. I think if you're looking at the total, under probably would be a lean for me, just because the Jags offense has been so bad and Houston's defense is quite good. But that would really just be a lean. It's nothing that I have anything serious about, because you have Houston with the 2nd ranked run DVOA so far, 8th ranked pass DVOA, 4th overall. And now you get a Jacksonville team that's on a short week that's just absolutely struggling. So Jacksonville team total under could make sense. But a 5.5 spread in a division game in a situation like this is just something that I don't want much part of.
All right, welcome into our guy Prop God, man. Good morning, good evening, good day. How you feeling? You're on mute. You're on mute.
There you go.
I'm feeling much better now. It's greater later, right?
That's a fact, Jack. You already know. I know you have some thoughts on this game. I know I'll let you get into it. We'll run back at the end. Anything else you want to add as far as like personal plays for the people? But welcome in, man. Thoughts on Texans Jags, and then we'll get to D-Mac.
Yeah. So Joe Mixon has officially been ruled out. Just thoughts on it. I'm expecting the Texans to bounce back at the crib. If this spread was still 6.5, which let me fact check it. I just want to make sure that it's still a flat 6. Oh, it's 5.5. I definitely like Houston to win and cover at the crib. I know we expected more out of Jacksonville coming into the year. And it's like the season is in the balance here, especially with it being a divisional game. But with the Texans coming off being embarrassed last week in Minnesota, CJ Stroud plays his best football at the crib, and I expect that to continue against this Jaguar defense. They allowed a little bit over 7 yards per completion. Jacksonville is struggling with just completing passes. They got the 4th highest incompletion rate for Trevor Lawrence, and they're pretty predictable. They're passing the ball 63% of the time. And what was the last thing? It was yards per reception that Jacksonville was allowing that I wanted to really touch on. The Jaguars are allowing pretty much 7.5 yards per completion. So I love Nico Collins. I know you spoke on him last night, so I'm with you there. But I expect Diggs to be involved. I'm on his over 5.5 receptions. It was plus 105. When I caught it, he cashed his line last week with 10 catches. Now we got Tank Dell out of the entire game. I expect it to be heavy Nico and Diggs in this one. So leaning aside, I'm gonna go with the Texans to win the cover, especially with the spread being 5.5. And my favorite prop is Stephon Diggs over 5.5 receptions. And I could see CJ Stroud honestly throwing for about 280 to 300 yards today, especially with no Mixon again.
Yeah, I like that. And you look at CJ Stroud split specifically, home and away, it lines up. So I'll be honest with you, as I talked about, the Jaguars need to have a win today to kind of turn their season around. I don't look at it to happen. I think the Texans go home after taking their licks versus the Vikings, get back on track. CJ Stroud has himself a game and continues to bury the Jaguars further and puts the Dougie P on the extreme hot seat, to say the least.
All right, that was brief. Damn, y'all not excited about this fucking Texans matchup, man? Like, come on.
No, it's because of Jacksonville.
No.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Listen, what a colossal disappointment to start the year, right? What a just absolute garbage. All right. On to a matchup of two teams that I don't think we're surprised. I don't think we're surprised by one, but I think some people are very surprised by the other. We got the Steelers taking on the Colts today in Indianapolis. Got an over/under of 40.5, and I believe the let's go to the actual the actual game. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers right now is 2.5-point favorites. We've seen the Steelers defense just be absolutely dominant. Dominant might be an understatement at this point. They've just beat the shit out of everyone. They haven't given up more than 10 points. They're getting to the quarterback. They're covering. Their back end is looking really, really good. Pause. I had no choice, man. It's instilled in me. I got a problem and I'm working on it. As you can see, no one really expected for Justin Fields to look as good as he does. And for anybody that says he's not looking good, I would just like for you to shut the fuck up forever. Okay? Because all you guys wanted was, oh man, he can't do this. He's in Chicago. He's not making any plays. They were almost a playoff team. I know this because I was one of the motherfuckers saying that. I was one of them. I was like, he didn't do this. He didn't do that. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. I see Caleb Williams, and it's like, man, this motherfucker looks like Justin Fields without braids. It's just the same nigga. Like, it's just the same shit. The offensive line can't block us all. It's just some better motherfuckers running around trying to catch passes now. That's it. You see him in Pittsburgh. They've rebuilt the engine completely. He's understanding that he doesn't have to make every single play. He can leave some plays on the field, and he can trust his defense to get him the ball back. Again, people kept lying about Chicago's defense. Chicago's defense didn't start clicking until halfway through the year. First 7 weeks last year, they were bottom 5. Then they went and got sweat, and they just hit a switch. The whole defense started performing at a completely different level. But again, nobody gets the benefit of the doubt or a fair shake in the court of public opinion. We got to say Justin Fields is playing well. And I know that pains some people, but you just got to get over it. He's playing well. Russell Wilson will never start a game for the Steelers unless something happens to Justin Fields. We just got to get that clear. In today's game, he's not. He won't start any games for them unless something happens.
Don't underestimate Mike Tomlin. Don't underestimate him. He might be like, look, that veteran over there is looking pretty good. he's got some pads on.
Unless something happened to him, I don't see it. I think Arthur Smith also loves Justin Fields. On the other side, what is there to say about Indianapolis other than it's the Anthony Richardson experience week in, week out? You're going to get some good. You're going to get some bad. You're going to get some plays that say, oh, shit, and it could be good or bad, right? That's him. He's the oh, shit guy right now in the NFL. That's who he is. It's like, oh, shit, look at that throw. That was amazing. Oh, shit, another pick. What the fuck are you doing? That's him. That is Anthony Richardson week to week. You got to take the good with the bad. And I think you're going to see another example of that today. You're going to get an example of the oh shit moments. I think there will be more oh shit moments on the bad side, though. He's going against an elite defense. And I like for Caleb Williams and this offense to perform pretty well. The offensive line, I wouldn't say is playing better, but I do think that I said Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
I went for Chile. I do think that Pittsburgh is able to do the things that the other teams have been successful at, which is run the ball. Except for Chicago. That's why I was meant to mention Chicago. Against Chicago, Chicago just said, we're not going to run the ball. Even though we know you can't stop it, we're not even going to try it. Fucking idiots. I think Pittsburgh's game plan will be that of run the ball, run straight at them, do what you're supposed to do, and they'll get out there with a win. Don't trust Anthony Richardson to do anything but turn the ball over and make a couple of splash plays. Jonathan Taylor should be getting paid $5 million more a year because he put them in his fucking backpack last week, and without him, Anthony Richardson ain't shit. Respectfully. Spin, on to you, my brother. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, first of all, I have said it for the last a few years, is that even though he's won a Super Bowl and he's been one of the longest tenured coaches, I still think Mike Tomlin is one of the most underrated head coaches in the National Football League. He always gets the most out of his teams. He always manages, the winning record stat that everybody knows aside, he just always manages to do more with less. The man can just literally coach football. So you give me him, and you give me him against, you already mentioned about about Anthony Richardson being a potential turnover machine. Not a potential. He is a turnover machine. And you give me Tomlin and company against Steichen. No, I like the Steelers in this one. What I like more than that is I like the under. Under 40 for this one. I know it's a low number, but look, Indianapolis is Anthony Richardson has 6 interceptions in 3 games, and the Steelers are third in net turnover margin at plus 1.3. Colts are also 25th in offensive pass DVOA, and Pittsburgh is 4th in defensive pass DVOA. The other thing that Pittsburgh is they are by far number 1 in pass DVOA and coverage grade limiting wide receiver ones. So if you're going to take Pittman out of the game and you have an advantage on the line from your defensive line to their offensive line, you have a situation where you could see a lot of runs and you could see a lot of clock chewed, and you could see 2 coaches that don't really want to turn the ball over to either of their quarterbacks to try to win the game. You also have no Jalen Warren on Pittsburgh's side, who runs a lot of their bigger plays, a lot of their little gadget plays that can go for big yards. You have Najee Harris, who is plotting up the middle. So you have a situation to me where you have one quarterback is very turnover prone. The other quarterback has been good, but hasn't put up like world beating stats. And you have an incredibly strong defense on the Pittsburgh side. You add all of those things up, and 40 is still too high to me. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this game finishes like 18-16 or something like that. Something really, really ugly. So I don't think that Anthony Richardson gets out of this game without an interception. I think if you can find a plus money line on him to throw 2+, I think that, or at least have 2 turnovers, I think that could potentially be a look to have. But this Pittsburgh defense is just too disciplined. They're too well disciplined. They're too well coached for a quarterback that plays so loose and so fast like Richardson does. And when you do that against this defense, they make you pay. So under 40 is my best look for this one. I think you can also look at either team's team total under as well.
Yeah, look, I'll keep it brief. As far as this is concerned, this is a strength-on-strength matchup that I'll be watching. The Steelers might have the best defense in the National Football League right now. Their defensive line is wreaking havoc on a consistent basis. We know Anthony Richardson is prone to those mistakes. Colts right now, offensive line is performing at an extremely high level. Can the Colts offensive line give Anthony Richardson time and negate some of that pass rush? And on the flip side, also allow them to run the ball effectively and keep Shane Steichen's offense on target? If that happens, then the Steelers are maybe forced to do a little bit more on offense, and you could, threaten that 40.5 from that standpoint. If not, and the Steelers continue to impose their will and they get those turnovers from Anthony Richardson, then I do expect it to be a lower scoring game as well. Look, this would be a big upset for the Colts to pull off in the way in which their season has kind of gone so far. But I do think the Steelers are going to go on the road and get the win. And look, Justin Fields has played very well for the Steelers. I always thought that he was a better option than Russell Wilson. I think that the injury to this point has been a misfortune for Russell Wilson, but a fortune for the overall team as far as the Steelers are concerned, and allowed them to get off to this undefeated streak to start out. And I think they keep it going today in Indianapolis as well. I'll go ahead and turn over to Prop to see if he has anything to look over for this game.
All right. I was trying to get a live line here on this prop, but I'll get into it at the end. For this one, I like the Steelers. I would lay the 2. I think it's like a 20-10 type of game, maybe 17-10. I don't know. The Steelers have yet to allow a team to go over 10 points this season. The Steelers are the only team in the NFL through 3 weeks who have not given up a rushing touchdown. If Jonathan Taylor's not getting to the end zone for the Colts, I see points being very hard to come by. Like D-Mac said, this is like pretty much best on best. The Colts, I think, are the first or second best run blocking offensive line in the league. 71 rushing yards per game. So I definitely think that matchup will be key. But I think the Colts defense can be had. They're allowing pretty much a 71% completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks. And they've allowed the fourth most completions of 20+ yards or more at 6, only behind the Rams, the Browns, and the Ravens. So I was looking at maybe Fields' longest completion because his line is usually low, but I think it'll be opportunity for him to get the ball downfield to either Pickens or Calvin Austin, like we saw last week. And prop wise, officially, I like Freiermuth over 3.5 receptions. I'm gonna keep betting that until I lose. Over in all 3 games, I think the Colts were allowing the 5th most completions per game to tight ends through the first 3 weeks. And what is that longest completion? Yeah, Fields' longest completion is sitting at 32.5. I think it's pretty low compared to his hit rate. And I think it's low because, he's not really respected as a passer on the books. His passing yards are only at 182.5. And I think it opened at like 177. So 32.5. Opposing quarterbacks have gone over this line in every game of the season. The Bears had 2 40+ yard receptions in that game. And then in week 1, Nico Collins had like a 45 or 55 yarder against the Colts. So Fields is over this number in 7 out of his last 10. 2 out of 3 games this season. So I can see his rushing yards being in play too. I don't want to give too many Steelers props though, but I have no interest in Colts player props unless it's Anthony Richardson to throw an interception. So I think the Steelers win to go to 4-0, and the Colts are in trouble in that what's that division? The AFC South?
South, yep.
South, yeah. Well, yeah, that's it for me.
All right. So that's everyone covered. Spin, you spoke on this already, right? My bad. I was on the phone. I was bullshitting. Sorry.
Yeah, we're good to go next game.
I was bullshitting. My bad. Next game, we got the Chicago Bears taking on the Los Angeles Rams. You got a 1:00 start with an over/under of 40.5 in Chicago. What is there to say about these two teams? The Rams are ravaged by injuries. They got gifted a win by the 49ers last week. Caleb Williams looked good, looked better passing the ball last week, but he threw it like 8 million times, and they were losing the majority of the game. So you don't know what to actually take away from the offense. I will say that the one thing I've seen is obviously he's found some level of synergy with Rome Odunze. I think people were expecting that. Whether or not the absence of Keenan Allen played a huge part in that, we'll find out today. But I do think that Odunze does have the potential to be the best receiver on that team. He's a first-round pick. He's a top 10 pick. Keenan Allen's 34 years old, 33, however old he is. He's only there for a year. He's not under contract past this season. It's Odunze's the guy. You don't invest a top 10 pick in somebody for him to sit behind a 33-year-old, 34-year-old for more than a couple of weeks. And obviously, what you love about Odunze is Odunze might have been banged up, but he ain't missing games. He's still out there. You got to love that from a young kid. The Bears laying 3 against anyone. Very, very shocking to me, to be totally honest with you. I just, I know that the injuries are a thing, but it's very difficult for me to believe that they're, good enough to beat a team by 4 points. I think they can win a game, but I think it'll be a situation where it's like a last-second field goal type of deal. I do not trust this team to go out there and win by 3 points. I think this is the call. Santos to win the game. And that's what it's going to come down to this week. It's going to come down to him making a field goal at the end of the game. I promise you, that's what it's going to be. Chicago's ugly. You got to win some of those ugly games. You got to win some games in general. I think that obviously they got to get back. If they get back to 2-2 through 4 games, it feels a lot better than 1-3. You don't want to be in a dead heat situation where you're 2 games out already against Minnesota. You know what I mean? Especially if Green Bay is able to pull out a win today. 2-2 looks way better than 1-3 if you're the Chicago Bears. So yeah, I have high expectations for them to come through today with a win. Love Odunze. Hate DeAndre Swift. He's the worst fucking running back in all of the NFL. I love Ryan Poles, but I never seen him. That's the dumbest shit I ever seen Ryan Poles do in my fucking life. I don't know. Sign this dude the first day of free agency to fucking do nothing.
I love Ryan so much, but that was a god awful move, and it was a god awful move at the time too.
Fuck. Like, no way, bro. And this the thing. This how you knew he was fucking trash. He went from elite offensive line to elite offensive line. It wasn't him.
And it didn't work with the first elite offensive line either. Look, it's unfortunate.
He fucking sucks. Oh my goodness.
So
I have to get that off.
But look,
I have to get that out of my system, bro. He fucking sucks. People will be nice and blame the O-line. He stinks. Let's just cut to the fucking chase. He's not good. And that's, yeah. If I'm going to bet him, I'm going to probably bet his unders. Fuck him. He sucks. I'm sorry. But, Prop, any thoughts on this Chicago theme? I know you were a former fan, but, you don't fuck with him like that. Well, you're a Justin Fields guy. So, what are your thoughts on this Rams-Bears matchup?
Yeah, definitely not a former fan, but prayers goes to that organization. I do have a look in this one. It's Rome Odunze, over 35.5 receiving yards. I think the line is simply too low, and it may be the last chance we get a line this low for him. Now, I know there is a bit of a weather concern. I think wind gusts up to 21 miles an hour. I think last night I saw an update to wind gusts up to about 15 miles an hour, but it's supposed to be no rain. So I still like Chicago to be successful to be successful through the air because they can't run the football. And I don't see that changing behind this offensive line or behind the talent that they have at running back this season. So let's see, where did I have? I want to get the exact notes. All right, there it is. So the 35.5 receiving yards is minus 120. He's coming off of pretty much his breakout game. He went off for 114 yards on 6 receptions last week and a touchdown against the Colts. I took it up to 60 plus receiving yards plus 220 and his anytime touchdown at plus 330 on FanDuel. He's averaging 52 receiving yards per game. He had the 7th highest ADOT in the league this season at 16.5. He's 5th in the NFL in air yards at 330. The Rams allow the highest opponent ADOT in the NFL at 8.8. And they allow the 4th highest opponent receiving yards per game at 186. That's just, grouping up all the receivers combined against them per game. So this Rams secondary is struggling, and the Chicago is only successful through the air. I think it's a perfect combination here. Keenan Allen's back. It doesn't concern me. Rome is 2nd on the Bears in target share, route participation, and snap share. I don't see it getting worse with Keenan coming back because Keenan should still be limited, and Rome is pretty much building that chemistry with Caleb. So I think this makes it better, and can kind of make Rome a sleeper, if you will, and open up those targets down the field. We've seen Jawan Jennings have the game of his life last week against this Rams secondary. So I'm all aboard the Rome Odunze trade.
How about that, right? RB or wide receiver 1 in fantasy is picked up off the waiver wire in week 3. That's insane. I got
him in 2 leagues.
I'm not gonna lie. He helped me win 1 and he whooped my ass in the other. So here we are.
Man.
Hey, bro. 46 on your team is one thing. 46 on the team against you?
It's tough. Look, it happened with Puka last year. There's always those guys you can go and pick it up. And I will say this as well. There's still a little bit of Spence thunder. They said going into this game, the Bears want to get Roschon Johnson more involved. That kid had a lot of good prospects coming out of the draft. He was one of the better running backs that I enjoyed coming out of the draft. If he's getting more involved, I think he's certainly the best running back in that backfield. And I think he's going to take it over from DeAndre Swift. So Sunday morning, you want to go out and pick up somebody real quick that may have some future value as well. Roschon Johnson is certainly a guy to go and look at. But look, for me, the Bears should win this game. I think that they won't face as many issues specifically versus the Rams and being able to not get pressure like the 49ers weren't able to. They should be able to attack the passer. They've been, I think, number 1 in pass rush win rate to this point in the game, to this point in the season, I should say, across the league. And on the flip side of it, the Bears obviously struggled in pass protection significantly. I think they're 30th as far as pass rush win rate allowed is concerned, or I should say pass blocking rate is concerned. And the Rams are about middle of the pack in that metric. they should be able to block it up and give Caleb Williams enough time to get the ball out. I like Rome Odunze again to have another good game. Him and Caleb's connection is clear. I think that's not a surprise that these two guys coming in as rookies are coming in with that type of mind meld. So I think it's going to continue to look for Rome, even with Keenan Allen back. I think Rome is going to be a guy that's going to take off the rest of the season. But Bears got to keep Caleb Williams clean, stay on schedule, use more of Roschon Johnson in the run game because DeAndre Swift is so terrible as a running back. And hopefully they can have better success versus the Rams defense. And they should be able to hold that Rams defense, or I should say Rams offense, under what they were able to put up against the 49ers. But got to give your flowers to Matthew Stafford because that man was locked in versus the Niners to get that win that not many people had predicted as well.
If you really pay attention, the man was in the matrix, bro. Some of those throws, you just got to tip your hat and say, man, it's like maybe 4 or 5 guys in the entire NFL that's doing that. But I digress. We took the L. Spin.
Yep. I saw it in the chat too. I just wanted to speak to it because it does play into how I see this game about with Herbert was getting featured more. Why would he be skipped over for Roschon Johnson? Cassius Clay had it right because Roschon is the pure runner. Herbert is more of a combo guy. I wouldn't call him a scat back, but he is more of a combo guy. And as mentioned already, I won't belabor it. Swift has just been absolutely fucking awful. So I think that what they're looking to do for this one is more power running overall. So overall for the year, Chicago 32nd, dead last in adjusted line yards for running backs. They also have ranked 24th in power run rank. So, and then 29th, they have ranked 29th in number or percentage of runs that are stuffed at the line of scrimmage. 25% of their runs so far have been stuffed at the line for for no gain or for a loss. You can't have that if you have a rookie quarterback, and you have a rookie quarterback who likes to hold on to the ball and who doesn't like to give up on plays. You just can't do it. So I think that's why they're leaning more on Roschon. He is bigger. He's more of a pure runner. He's not a guy that you're going to put out in coverage and do little flips and screens and stuff. I can see Chicago really simplifying the offense for Caleb in this one and limiting the amount of options and reads that he has to do. I think that makes sense. And I think that when you have a team like this, that's what you really have to do. It's also what you have to do for your rookie quarterback. So I would not, as far as the game itself goes, I don't really have a take on the line. If you gave me a free play, I would take it on Chicago. But this total has just come. This total, I like the under at the start a little bit to open the week a little bit. But holy God, this thing has gone down almost 6 total points. So I'm not sure that there's really a whole lot of value left at 40 or 40 and a half. Maybe you can look to take it live if one team scores early and you get like I like it a lot better in the 43 to 44 range. But the value on the total for this one has been bet out of it at 40 with the win that was already mentioned, and with likely Chicago, the reports that they're going to give Roschon more work means that they're probably going to go to a more traditional scheme of power run up the middle. And then you have Keenan Allen back on the outside. So a lot of short, quick throws to limit the amount of decision-making and long decision-making that Caleb Williams has to make. So I can see them helping their quarterback in that regard. But like I said, you give me a free play, I take the Bears. If I can get a total sometime live in game at like 43, 44, I like it a lot more. But at 40, the value's just been bet way, way out of it. I don't have a take on the Odunze props, but it's impossible to bet against the guy now. I mean, the kid is just electric. And if you are running power up front and you're having some success, that can open up play action later for a guy like Odunze to break a long one.
Caleb Williams scores his first rushing touchdown today. Get it on the books at plus 380, plus 370 right now. I also like Cole Kmet to score a touchdown at plus 480. Again, low scoring, security blanket in Kmet to get in the end zone. Caleb Williams, ugly game, down inside the 5. Can definitely see him getting an opportunity to score a touchdown. I love the odds too. So 100% on that. Moving on to the next
I
game.
wanted to chime in real quick on because I know the chat was saying
Sure.
that Herbert was more featured. I just don't want bad information out there. So Herbert played 4 snaps last week. DeAndre
Sounds like
Swift
a
played.
feature film to me.
Yeah,
It's like,
DeAndre Swift played 42, and
maybe
Roshan
it's short.
Johnson played 33. So I just wanted to get the right information because a lot of times people could be wrong, and I don't want the chat to take that information like it's coming from us. So that's incorrect.
So Johnny has 4 apples, and 4 times 8 is 32, and somebody had 33 and 4. Oh well, definitely sounds like you got tons of work. Sounds like that person made that shit the fuck up, right? So
I will repeat it again. Jeremy Fowler, who works for ESPN, says the Bears is planning on giving Roshan Johnson an extended look this Sunday versus the Rams. So might be something you want to look at. Just saying.
Awesome. On to the next game, which is, look at this, the Kansas City team versus the Chargers of Los Angeles. Low score, low over under. What is there to say about Patrick Mahomes? He just keeps fucking winning. Doesn't need to even play well. He just keeps winning. Not going to say he gets lucky, even though some people will probably call whatever it is he's got that. I'll just stick to the script and say, man, they just are a really, really good football team. Laying 7.5. Herbert's fucked up. They got no Derwin James. I don't know what to say. Again, man, I've run out of ways to like really dissect anything that has to do with the Chiefs. 7.5 points in an NFL game sounds crazy, especially if Herbert's going to play. I got to lean towards taking the points with them. But then again, it's very difficult to bet against Patrick Mahomes on a week-to-week basis, even though he hasn't even fucking played well yet. I guess if Herbert plays, you kind of have to take the 7.5. I think that's part of it. I think Dobbins can perform well. I think you can run the ball decently if you actually stick to it. I think that the Chargers are going to do that. They're going to try to. But then I look at the Chargers offensive line and I see Alt, Slater. It's a mess. They literally went from like looking like something to like the infirmary in a matter of hours last week. It was just a tough situation for them. So again, with the mix of injuries and Travis Kelce being the father of this organization in years past, I'm non-committal on anything. I really just think we're talking about this game because D-Mac is a Chiefs fan, because I'm not betting shit in this. So, I mean, we can go to prop, then spin doc, and we'll let D-Mac go last. But I'm not betting a fucking thing in this because I don't trust anyone on the Chargers side to do anything, because offensive line is shitty, quarterback's fucked up, and their best player on offense outside of the quarterback this season has been a guy coming off an Achilles tear, which, shout out to him, has been the most amazing thing to see thus far this year. So we'll go to prop, then we'll go to spin, and then we'll get the full analysis on the Chiefs and how their 12th man in the stripes will make sure that they win today. Go ahead, prop.
Yeah, for this one, I just drew a blank for a second. So I like Rashee Rice and I like Travis Kelce. Betting on Kelce is pretty tough at this point, but if it was going to be any matchup, especially with Derwin James being out, I would expect it to be this one. But I didn't take his yards this time. I just took the anytime touchdown. I got a list of touchdown scores that I put out on Twitter, but I'll cover the rest of the guys at the end. But Travis Kelce is on there. He was at plus 195 last night. I don't know what the live line is right now. Rashee Rice is the 4th highest projected receiver with the best cornerback receiver matchup rating on FTN this week. That list, the top 5 list went crazy last week, so I'm running that back, and Rashee was number 4 on there. As far as a side, I would lean the Chargers covering with Herbert playing. The thing is, will he be able to make it through a full game this week after he got knocked out in the third quarter last week? With the spread sitting at 7.5, I don't like the Chiefs when they have big spreads. I like Mahomes and 3 points and below. So I will go with the Chargers with the points. I do expect the Chiefs to win the game. I got no props on the Chargers side. So Rashee Rice over 76.5 receiving yards and Travis Kelce anytime touchdown would be my 2 looks for that one.
For me, I don't take big spreads in division games. So these games can be very, very wonky. So the spread for me has no interest either side. I'm not even looking at it. If we could get a potential live spot where we can get it within the 3 or around the 3 number, sure, why not? Might be worth a look here. But I said this to VIP all week. I've said it. I said it last week too, and I'm going to say it again because the Chiefs' pass defense is actually not that bad, is that you shouldn't be starting any pieces of the Chargers' passing offense in your fantasy lineups. None. 0. Period. I don't care who it is. You can tell me you have this, you have that. Get them out. Get them out now. Especially Justin Herbert. He should not be starting in any fantasy league. Not only is he playing against a decent defense, not only is he in a run-heavy offense, but he's also playing with a high ankle sprain. And when you listen to the comments that he's made about that ankle sprain, normally, like for some guys, you hear like, yeah, it feels good, and he was cutting out there, and he was cutting with this and that. Well, he was limited in practice all week this week, and you're getting these very ambiguous comments about like, well, you got to see how it goes, and these things take time, and that's not the vote of confidence for a guy who's healthy right now. He's not. And both teams know that he's not. So what that means is probably you're going to see a ton of runs. J.K. Dobbins over carries, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think any Chargers back over carries makes sense because the Chargers don't really have a choice in this one. If they're going to stay in this game, they can't put the ball in the hands of their quarterback who has limited options in the passing game to begin with, on a run-heavy offense who's playing on one ankle. You just can't do it. And in fact, if you believe some reports from some insiders within the Chargers organization, is that they were actually strongly leaning towards sitting Herbert in this one, but it was Herbert who pushed to play. And he pushed hard to play. So for this one, the only things that I'm really looking at, I think that Rashee Rice receptions and receiving yards always make sense. I mean, he's one of the most targeted guys in the entire NFL for good reason. And he's been especially true with Kelce having a very, very slow start to the year. And I use slow in both stats and just how he's looked on the field. So that one makes sense to me, but I just can't take a 7.5 point spread in a division game, or 7 point, anywhere around 7 in a division game. I can't take it. So, anything Rice works. And I think that anything in the Chargers run game with carries, I'm not necessarily going to say yards, but in carries, I think can definitely work. You also have a Kansas City team who has been reasonably, they've been decent. They haven't been like world beaters in the past, but they've been decent enough. So give me that, and you give me a hobbled quarterback. You give me Mahomes, and I certainly think the Chiefs win the game, but I'm not going to try to touch anything on this spread.
Yeah, look, I think that Spin did a good job running that down there. Look, for me personally, as far as the matchup is concerned, I'll say first from the betting line standpoint, I wouldn't bet the 7.5 either way, to be honest with you. We tend to play close games with the Chargers. They're going through hell as far as the injuries are concerned. I can't trust us to go ahead and blow them out like we should, but hey, it could happen. It could be possible, but maybe we'll throw a little bit of extra money on the refs to make sure that they go ahead and allow us to blow them out today. But in all seriousness, they're missing both of their tackles to this point. Justin Herbert with that sprained ankle, I agree with Spin. I don't expect their passing game to have a good day. J.K. Dobbins couldn't get going on the ground, though I will say once again, we faced what was a limited quarterback from a mobility standpoint, and we shut down Bijan Robinson to only 3.3 yards per carry. When we want to stop the run, we can hit that button from that aspect. We know what the Chargers are going to go out and try and do. They don't have exceptional weapons. I would say that the Falcons have a better set of weapons from the standpoint, specifically in the passing game. So I expect us to go ahead and make sure that we take out the run first and foremost. So carries certainly makes a lot of sense to bet on. Yards certainly would scare me off from a bit. Ultimately speaking, Rashee Rice, I expect to continue to have really good games. I think this is a spot to get Travis Kelce right. The only thing that concerns me about betting on their overs is The Chargers play a slow brand of football. We're not a team that's going to try and pour it on necessarily. So we're going to take care of the football and make sure that we get out of there with a win and not push the envelope too much. So that's the only thing that concerns me from the Travis Kelce standpoint. I do expect him to have a good game. I hope that we can get a really long bomb to Xavier Worthy for to put something on his longest reception. I do think there were opportunities that Patrick Mahomes missed. He talked about in the press conference that he felt like he needed to be a lot better, which I certainly agree with him because he hasn't played up to his standard to this point in the season. I think that we hit Xavier Worthy for a long bomb. I think that Travis Kelce has a better game than he has had in the past to start this season. I think Rashee Rice continues to play very well. Outside of that, I think it's a wild card in the run game. Obviously, Kareem Hunt's going to be playing his first game. We know Carson Steele had a really good game versus the Falcons. Obviously, Samaje Perine continues to stay ready and in the rotation as well. So I would stay away from the running backs. But in my opinion, if you're going to bet volume, I think Rashee Rice has a good game. Xavier Worthy gets an explosive catch over the top. Outside of that, Travis Kelce will be in the mix and have a good game, but I don't know if I love the volume, again, because I think it'll be a slower pace, maybe a little bit of a lower scoring game from that aspect as well. I expect our defense to have a good game versus the Chargers, and we'll get out of there with a win.
All right. Well, that was fun. Always happy to talk about those guys. On to the final game of our Sunday slate. We got the Baltimore Ravens at the crib taking on the Bills. Baltimore laying 2.5. Over under a 46.5. I'm gonna just tell you right now, I'm on the Baltimore Ravens money line tonight. Because I think they're the better football team. I know that we like the first 3 weeks aren't indicative of that. Baltimore offensive line looks shitty. Obviously, you're going to say their only win came against the Chicago or the Dallas Cowboys, who have been a pretty shitty team. As far as I'm concerned this year, I don't really like them. In regards to this matchup, I think Lamar at the crib. Again, the last time these two teams matched up, if you guys remember the game, the Bills led for the majority of it, and the Baltimore Ravens mounted a comeback, weren't able to finish it. Again, I just think that it's a matchup of two great teams. They're laying points at the crib. Everything about Buffalo this season screams that they're a juggernaut, except for their opponents that they faced. They haven't really played anyone. They struggled in the first half against Arizona in the first game of the season. They obviously beat Miami. Tua was about to score a touchdown to cut the lead to 2 scores. He got hurt. And then last week, obviously, they played the Jacksonville Jaguars, who might as well be a Division II college team at this particular moment because they're ass. On the Baltimore side, obviously, they led by a bunch of points against the Raiders and gave it up, which historically over the last 3 years, they've done a lot. That doesn't mean they're a bad team. It just means that when Gardner Minshew comes to Baltimore, they forget to play a second half of football. So that's not the case this week. I like Lamar in primetime. I think he performs. I think the last time we saw Lamar in primetime, he let the fans down. Should have won the game against Kansas City, but did not win the game because he didn't make enough plays at the end. All that shoulda, coulda, woulda shit goes out the window when you can't make a play at the end. So I know that because I'm a 49er fan who's had back 2 Super Bowls where he led by double digits and they lost the game. So again, I like Baltimore today. I love Lamar Jackson's rushing yards. And also in this game, I like Rashad Bateman. I think Bateman is finding his way in the offense. I think that you're going to get a depressed number every week simply because of the way the offense is built. It's Lamar as the fulcrum at the end of the day. They're trying to integrate Derrick Henry, who by the end of the year, this offense should be really clicking. Again, no fault or no knock to Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to be the MVP of the league. I just think you get Lamar in prime time on a Sunday night, and I think he shows out. He shows off. He shows off and shows out for the people tonight. So like Baltimore on the money line, or in Baltimore minus the 2.5. I think that again. I think this is a spot where they handle business, get back to 2-2, get back to controlling their season long mission, which is to get back to a situation where they match up against the team that they played in the first week of the season. Prop, any thoughts on the Sunday night game? Obviously, we'll be streaming that tonight in Ballers Only and on playback. But yeah, any thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think this one, this is interesting for me. I'm very excited for it. I kind of took the approach to just waiting to bet it live to get the best angles. But as far as the side, I'm kind of torn, man. I want to lean Baltimore to win at the crib. It's a low spread. What is it? Still 2.5? Let me get the current line. Yeah, it's still 2.5. I'm leaning towards the Ravens winning and covering. This will be the best team that the Bills have played all season. So I'm interested to see how they hold up with this challenge. Now the Ravens have been pretty bad on defense through the air, at least, giving up the most, passing yards per game. I wasn't expecting that. I'm sure they'll right the ship at some point. But I also don't know about. I don't know. I got a lot of points for each side on this one. Now I do think what the Bills have been trying to do is go run heavy, especially under Joe Brady, and the Ravens have excelled at stopping the run. So I think that's another best on best type of matchup. And if you're forcing Josh Allen to pass more with this group of receivers, I want to see if he can, continue to elevate his play. No turnovers. Oh no, he did fumble. I'm sorry, but 7 touchdowns, no interceptions through the air. So I think if the Bills are going to win this game, it'll have to be Josh Allen. I think James Cook will have a tough time on the ground, but I do like his receiving prop in the first quarter at 0.5. I think it's just simply too low. Took it last week. I think the last 2 weeks, yeah, he's cleared it easily. 17 yards in the first quarter against the Dolphins, and he had like 22 yards in the first quarter against who did they play last week? The Jaguars. So James Cook over 0.5 first quarter receiving yards. That's on FanDuel plus 144. And I also like Josh Allen to run the ball here. I got his rushing yards at 29.5. It's still available on FanDuel. He is over this number in 8 out of 12 games since Joe Brady became OC, averaging 42 rushing yards per game. So I think the number is just too low. And I also see Lamar having success on the ground. I'm not mad at parlaying those two. Lamar is at 58.5 rushing yards. So if you want to tease him down, maybe 25 and 40, 25 for Allen, 40 for Lamar, something like that. Ravens receivers, I don't have a lot of belief in. I don't really like betting on them besides Zay Flowers. So no true looks there. I'm going Allen rushing yards, a lean towards Lamar, and James Cook first quarter receiving. That's all I got.
Ben, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll go. So yeah, I mean, not huge disagreement with anything that anybody said. The one that I'm eyeing up for this one, at least on the surface, would be Lamar's rushing yards and rushing attempts. So just watching the Bills in coverage, if they're going to play tight press coverage, then you do have options to roll Lamar out, and they've actually been pretty tough against the pass. So I think that you could see a lot more design runs for Lamar in this one, because he actually does have a pretty significant advantage in athleticism overall. So for the game itself, yeah, man, this is going to be a fun game. I personally do like Baltimore in this one. I like them to win. I think if you can get it under the field goal, I think if it goes to 3, then you're looking at a potential number of scenarios where you push. So right now you can still get it at 2.5. That would be where I would go. And as far as other props go for this one, I think anything. I mean, it's really hard to bet against Josh Allen right now in any sense, and especially if Baltimore can't get pressure. I almost always take a prop on Josh Allen longest rush, because they just continue to set it way too short for what he can do, especially when he gets out there. Right now it's at 11.5. I would take that for sure. And I mean, always good for at least a 13 to 15 yard gain. So I'm just going to keep taking it until it stops hitting. So those would be the looks that I would do. Agree on the Ravens. If
We lost spin there. Look, this is
Definitely lost spin there for sure.
Yeah, I'll just say this. Look, Bills and Ravens, this is, I don't have any specific looks, but this is a test for the Bills. Can you go on the road, beat a really good team, in my opinion? And look, Lamar Jackson generally does do well versus the Buffalo Bills outside of the playoff game as well. So I think this will be a very good test, specifically for the Buffalo Bills trying to stay undefeated. And look, I don't think that they've played any really good teams to start out this season. I don't think the Cardinals are particularly good. Who else have they played to start out this year? The Dolphins. I know that
Dolphins. Tua got hurt, and then they played.
I know people are saying that they beat them while Tua was still there. I don't think the Dolphins were a good team before Tua, to be honest with you. To be perfectly honest, and I think the Jaguars are terrible. So this is going to be their first real test. Go ahead, finish.
Did I cut out? I cut out, didn't I?
Yeah, you cut out. Go ahead. You were going to say something about the Ravens side.
Oh no, I was just going to say Ravens even get it at the under 3, and Lamar rushing and Josh Allen longest rush are my looks. That's it. That was all.
So on you, buddy.
All right, awesome. Listen, I got nothing else to really add in regards to this one. We got the matchup of the week for Eagles Tampa dropping as soon as this video ends. As soon as we get out of here, stay on the channel. Make sure you guys are locked in. Spin and DMAC, best matchup of the week. They got it all for you guys. Hope you guys get some of the bets in. Again, tons of options. Make sure you guys are rocking with prop. We're gonna go. I'm obviously gonna go live on Social World on playback as soon as the matchup of the week wraps. And yeah, I don't want to get into the rest of the slate because a lot of the games, in my opinion, are ass. And I also think that we find the best value in the best games, the ones that you actually want to watch. So that plays a part in my thought process in regards to having these matchups. So with that being said, prop, spin, DMAC, anything before we get the fuck up out of here, because I am about to go get my final bets together and make a sandwich.
I think we're good to go and get on out of here, man. Always good to talk with you.
All right, y'all. Catch y'all on.
Yeah, I want to give them my touchdown scores real quick. I forgot.
All right,
go ahead.
My bad. So I call it the red zone. It's on Twitter. The red zone week 4. T. Higgins anytime touchdown plus 190. Breece Hall anytime touchdown minus 140. That's on Fanatics. That's the best line that was available for him. Aaron Jones anytime touchdown plus 130 on Fanatics. James Conner anytime TD minus 115 on FanDuel. George Pickens anytime touchdown plus 220. George Kittle anytime touchdown plus 200. Travis Kelce anytime touchdown plus 195. I'll read it again real quick. T. Higgins, Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, James Conner, George Pickens, George Kittle, and Travis Kelce anytime TDs.
45-47. Let's get it. Catch y'all on playback. Make sure you're tapped in with Max Marquee matchup, and we are out of here. Peace.
It's a balloon.